Hey folks, you know what's up? This is the Pixel 2. This is the Pixel 2 XL. The embargo just lifted about an hour ago, and I've had these for a few days, and I wanted to share with you my experience using them so far. Now, you have to understand, I've only had them for a little amount of time, so this is not like a final review verdict, but it's going to give you a pretty good idea what these phones are about. So, sorry for the previous video. I had some issues with audio. I think this is fixed now, hopefully. But anyway, here we are. Pixel 2, Pixel 2 XL. If you look very carefully, they are very similar, these black ones, in industrial design. So much so that, in fact, I would say that there's a nice family match there, despite the fact that the smaller one, the Pixel 2, is made by HTC for Google, and the bigger one is made by LG for Google. So there's some differences in the camera positioning and flash positioning, but the fingerprint reader, and then there's a lack of Google logo on this one for some reason. There's a bit of dust on here. So most of my time has been spent on the Pixel 2 XL. I just set up the Pixel 2 so you can see what the screen looks like basically. And then if I flip them over again, you can see this is using the two pretty famous live wallpapers. And yeah, so let me walk you through both phones really quickly. Let's start with the small one because I want to focus most of my time on the big one, all right? So this is the Pixel 2, right? And at first sight, it doesn't look too different from last year's Pixel. And the reason for that is because it has a 16:9 display. So you still have these really large bezels, top and bottom, and some slightly narrower bezels on the edges here. There's also this interesting, weird little beveled edge here, which doesn't exist on the Pixel 2 XL. Let me show you for comparison. The Pixel 2 XL has basically just kind of a rounded edge here. No bevel here, which is a really interesting design difference. And the display kind of waterfalls into the metal here. Whereas on the Pixel 2, it's just flat, right? So that's one big difference. And this is a 1080p panel. It's 5 inches. The phone doesn't look so big because my hand is in front of the camera. But if I put my hand right down there, you can see 5 inches, 1080p, AMOLED. Really beautiful display. I'll be actually honest with you. I think the Pixel 2 has the better display of the two. The Pixel 2 XL obviously has a higher resolution and a different aspect ratio. But I think in terms of actual image quality, this Pixel 2 display is rockin'. You can see it really well here. So, what else is there to know about the Pixel 2? Well, stereo speakers, as you can see here. And they sound pretty good and pretty loud. HTC has a long reputation for making really good sounding speakers. So it definitely pays off here. 8 megapixel front-facing camera. And it's got a, of course, the earpiece built in here. And then on the bottom, the microphone's built in there. And I think this is just dirt. Yeah. And of course, you have the second speaker there for speakerphone as well. At the bottom, you have USB Type-C. Actually, the microphone is right here, which is different. The XL has a microphone in the speaker grill. And top, there's secondary mic. And then the right-hand side is power lock key, not ridged this year, volume rocker, and nothing really on the left other than the SIM slot. Now, this is a nano SIM, and there's no micro SD expansion like all Pixels and Nexuses, except for the Nexus 1. And then this has also got an embedded SIM, an eSIM. And that eSIM is means that you can provision this device online to different carriers without actually inserting a physical SIM. This is becoming more and more common, and I don't really think it's great, but hey. In the back, you get the cameras and fingerprint reader. So you've got a very fast fingerprint reader, a very good location. You got a dual LED flash, 12 megapixel camera, f/1.8, OIS, I believe the pixel size is 1.4 or 1.5 microns. This is an improvement over last year's Pixel because it adds OIS and it has f over 1.8 versus f over 2. And there's a whole bunch of software trickery that make this camera even better. So that's the Pixel 2 in a nutshell. I'm going to give you, there is a Google logo, but as you can see, it's kind of silk screened in. I'm going to give you another really good close-up so you can enjoy. And then we'll switch to showing you some software and stuff on the Pixel 2 XL, which is the phone I've mainly been using. So there you have Pixel 2. Let's put it away and work on Pixel 2 XL. So Pixel 2 XL is an awesome phone. They're both really awesome. You can't go wrong with either. They're pretty much identical other than this display. Oh, I believe the battery sizes are different as well. I think the small one has a 3000 milliamp hour battery, and I believe this bigger one is a 3500 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty nice. So immediately you notice this is a widescreen display, like an ultra wide screen. So it's 18 by 9, not 16 by 9. And that means less bezels, right? Much smaller bezels. Also these rounded corners. This is the exact same display that's on the V30, which is, by the way, uses into recording this right now. And it's a really beautiful display. Here, as you can see, and you see the animated wallpaper back there, the water landing on the beach. Yeah, awesome. And so there you go. Beautiful display. Now it's a Quad HD panel, Quad HD Plus, so a little bit 1440 by a little bit more than the 2650 or 2560, sorry. And then 8 megapixel front-facing camera, 2 speakers again, right, left and right, or top and bottom. And unlike the Pixel 2, there's, no, actually I'm wrong. See, Pixel 2 also has a secondary mic up here. Pixel 2 XL, both have their secondary mic. The primary mic, that's what it is. The primary mic on the Pixel 2 XL is embedded in the bottom speaker. And then you have USB Type-C, and that's the tour. So of course, again, power lock key, volume rocker, no texture on the power lock key this year. And on the left side, you've got the SIM slot. Nano SIM, no micro SD expansion, and of course an eSIM as well available in there. In the back, you have a very similar layout, a lot more fingerprinty, this one. Let me wipe it really quick because it's disgusting. So, there we go, that's much better. So you got the 12 megapixel camera, f of 1.8, OIS, large pixels, I think 1.4, 1.5 micron, dual LED flash. That's basically the same, just swapped around from the other one. And that fingerprint reader also in a really good location. But here there's like an embossed Google logo. It's actually physically, you can feel the embossing. And there's some still screening for the regulatory stuff down there. So that's the lay of the land. Now, you've noticed something with these two phones, yeah? No headphone jack. And this is something that pisses me off. And I was very disappointed when they announced on the Pixel 2 XL there wouldn't be any headphone jack. But here's the good news. The U11, so I've talked about this on my podcast a lot. So go listen to my podcast, mobiletechpodcast.com. But there's different ways of doing audio over USB-C. There is analog and digital. And the Moto Z series are analog. The Loico phones are analog. The HTC phones that have no headphone jack, like the U11, are digital. And the Pixel 2s, I should say, are digital. So the problem with doing digital is that you need to put the DAC and the headphone amp in the dongle. And that means if you have a cheap dongle, you're cheaping out on the audio quality of these parts. And you're getting a subpar audio experience from the adapter. Whereas, you know, Qualcomm makes the Snapdragon 835 with a built-in DAC and headphone amp that's actually pretty decent. So what's in here is not being used, and except for the speakers. And so having a poor dongle like the U11 is a good example, means poor sound quality even on a flagship phone. Now the analog output on the Moto Z and the Leica phones is a little different because it uses the built-in DAC and headphone amp for the output and just uses the adapter. It's just a physical dumb adapter from USB-C to the headphone jack. So that sounds as good as whatever is inside the phone. But this is digital, meaning the dongle does all the work. So again, bad news, no headphone jack. Good news though is unlike the U11, which has a really cheap $15 dongle, these two phones have a really nice digital dongle. It's not going to sound as good as the V30 that's recording this right now with its incredible hi-fi quad DAC, but it sounds decent enough that I'm happy, and you know I'm pretty picky about audio. And that's why I like having the headphone jacks, because I don't like wireless audio. It doesn't sound as good. And I want the ability to plug into anything. So a bit disappointing there's no headphone jack, but not as bad as I thought, because the built-in, the supply dongle is actually half decent. So as I said, this has a bigger battery, 3,000 for a small one, 3,500 for a big one. And this camera is pretty baller. Now, both these phones have Snapdragon 835s, 4 gigs of RAM, and come in different storage configuration. I think 64 and maybe 128 or 256, but 64 for sure. These are the 64 models. That's what they sent us for review units. So that's what I have. So now that you've seen the lay of the land and you know what's inside the box, the two boxes, let's talk about my experience with the Pixel 2 XL. In a nutshell, wow. Look, it's a great phone. Now, it's hard not to make a great phone in 2017, especially an Android phone. I just want to clear my notifications because, you know, Snapdragon 835, again, it's a pretty solid starting point to build a flagship phone. Add to this the V30's beautiful display. Add to that a really top-notch camera subsystem. You're going to get a good flagship. So that is all true. But what makes this phone particularly awesome is a bunch of things. First of all, pure Android. Oreo, Android 8, skinned and completely designed by Google, this user experience, and it is awesome. So of course you still have the, you know, the Google, no cards available right now. That's interesting. I guess I have no internet connection. Let me turn my internet off so we can actually roam, because I have a roaming sim in here. This is of course Google Now, you know, it should populate in a second, but you get the idea. So you know, if I had more apps on this other screen, it would slide over. Down here is the app tray, so you just slide up from the bottom and you get the app tray. Pretty much standard stuff, very much like last year's Pixel. Of course, the big difference this year is that the search bar is at the bottom here, and you can't move it around. Like, this is actually sliding up the app tray. You can move these around, like I can put Chrome up here and put it back down here, but that's about all you can do. So that's a bit of a getting used to. It takes a bit of getting used to. Tap on this and you get your calendar, which I don't really want to show you guys. Let's see. Oh, look, we've populated here. We've got some stuff coming in. Yeah, it's a pretty simple experience, pretty good. When it's got a good data connection, which I think right now is a little flaky. Let me just make sure that I actually have Wi-Fi that works here. The hotel Wi-Fi is actually pretty good right now. But when you do have Wi-Fi and it does work and you have a good internet connection that's reliable, you get the weather right next to the time here. And that way you can, you know, you can compare the weather. So yeah, cool stuff. That's basically the launcher and the user experience. Then, of course, you have a whole bunch of cool things with the camera and other things. The first thing I want to show you is that if I turn the phone off and I squeeze the phone, what's the weather in Hong Kong?
Currently in Hong Kong, it's 75 and mostly cloudy. Tonight it's forecast to be 81 with showers.
There you go. So you can basically just squeeze the phone a little bit, just like the HTC U11. And there you go. You get the Google Assistant. All right. So that's kind of cool. You can also do the same as on the Pixel, which is double tap the power button. Oh, it gives me a choice of cameras. I just installed some cameras, so let's go always, and it's going to give me the camera instantly. So if I go back, let me actually kill the camera app so you can believe that it's actually working the way it's intended. I don't have any idea what happened, but I think my phone is just, there we go. It was just having some issues. Close app. Yeah, there's a few bugs. It's typical Google. All right, so what I was trying to show you is if you double press the power button, you get in the camera, and that's very fast. Let me show you that again. Kill the camera app. Lock the phone. Double press. Boom. Okay? Now, the other thing that's exciting about this is that the camera has a whole bunch of new features. I'm not going to show you everything here, but you've got this this feature here called, there you go, motion, auto motion, and motion off. So motion is basically what the iPhone's been doing for a long time and HTC's been doing forever. Just records a little video clip along the photo, and it starts before you take the photo and ends after you take the photo. The other new feature is that the menus are different now. You have a portrait mode here, okay, and of course this is not going to do anything because I don't have a person in front of me, but as you can see, you can adjust the toilet temperature, the grid lines, and the flash, and you lose a bunch of the settings. If I hit back, you are back to, to the main menu. This is the timer. Obviously, there's HDR plus. That's still there. That's not on by default, by the way. You can have this setting disappear if you don't want it. By default, it is. This is the live motion, the grid, the color balance. Interesting that it gives us white balance options this year. But no manual mode still. And then flash, right? Okay. So that's the same. Of course, the front camera behaves the same. And there you go. So now let me show you some of the photos I've taken with this. This phone takes unbelievable photos. Now, all modern smartphones take really good photos. But last year's Pixel kind of cranked things up a notch. And I believe that this year's Pixel 2s, they crank things up a notch again. So this is a phone that, in my opinion, takes better picture than all the other phones out there by just a little bit, like maybe 10% more. It cranks it up to 11. Here's a night shot from the hotel I took tonight. And as you can see, I'm zooming and we're not losing any quality, right? I mean, you see that. It's pretty unbelievable. And how I managed to capture the color of the blue pool here and still get detail on those vehicles down there and the windows and the background and the clouds in the sky. It's really impressive. Here's another shot. This is Hong Kong Harbor. I'm in Hong Kong right now, so there you go. You can resolve the individual light bars, which you can't on other phones, on not all the other phones. Not bad at all. Here's another one. Here's another one. I posted this one earlier. So this is a live photo. And if I turn motion on here, you can see how the little flash you see, reflection you see on the phone is the V30's laser autofocus. But this is what they call a live motion photo. So there you go. And then you have I took a bunch of these. I think I posted this one earlier. I love how you get to see the ray in the sky right here. It's pretty amazing. Amazing low light photography. Here's some day shots. Tons and tons and tons and tons of detail. Look at the rust out of that window. We're zoomed in like epically here, okay? Sorry, it's hard to zoom with two fingers. But you can see it's pretty amazing. So camera is just wow. Here's a shot of a glass with a person at a conference that I'm attending right now. It's the 4G 5G summit from Qualcomm. And you can see all the reflections in the glass. As you can see, an incredible amount of detail. Some slides. Here's Peter Lancia. He's a Qualcomm guy. And I hate to use his photo without his permission, but it is such an incredible portrait mode. Look at the hair up there, how good the portrait mode cropped that hair. Okay? This is a portrait, and this is the original photo. So, original. Sorry, I can't really see this very well. I need to use my other finger. So, this is the blurred version, and this is the non-blurred. You can see how good of a job it did cutting his face out. And this lighting is terrible. Really bright on one side, really dark. But look at the detail. You can see shadows and detail. I mean, let me go back to the bokeh version. It is, sorry, it's hard to do with one hand. You can see like the different shadows on his suit. I mean, it's amazing. So, Pixel 2 camera, wow. This is the first photo I ever took. And it's got motion. You can see, ignore the laser autofocus again. Down here shining, but you can see the animation. So, yeah. So far, as you can see, I've had very little time, pretty much one day to play with this phone during a conference. And I'm kind of blown away already. So, the verdict is still up in the air. I want to do more, but I want to tell you right now that this camera is insanely awesome. So, that's the first thing you should know. There's a bunch of other features too. If you play music, it's able to recognize the music, even in airplane mode, and display it here on the as a notification, Shazam style. But basically, it does that even offline and permanently all the time. You can turn it off if you don't like it. But in the same way as, you can say, "Okay, Google," and it wakes up. There is this feature. Let me try to do this with two hands. There's this feature that's listening to you all the time. Listening to music all the time and displaying in the notification tray up here what music is currently playing. It's pretty cool. There's many other features. I'm not a really huge software enthusiast, so for me it's just gravy at this point. But this phone is just so fast. Snapdragon 835, 4 gigs of RAM, just, you'd expect that. That's nothing new. I wanted to mostly give you a taste of what's uniquely different about this phone. And again, the Pixel 2 has, the exact same guts and the same features and the same software and the same capabilities. One thing to note, I mentioned this earlier about the stereo speakers. The ones from LG on the bigger phone are a little quieter overall at max volume and a little less full than the ones on the HTC, which is obviously makes sense because HTC has a ton of experience with, front-facing speakers like this from the Boom Sound days. And so keep that in mind. And as I said, the display on the Pixel 2 might be a little better, in my opinion, as an OLED. But it's a close tie, and the cameras are exactly the same. Both have the squeeze feature and all that stuff. So there you go. These are the phones. This is my takeaway. I'm just loving it. Other than the lack of headphone jack, which is pissing me, we're pretty awesome right now. So, yeah. Somebody asked if I've tested Snapchats. I don't use Snapchat. I'm not a 20-year-old, so no. I'm sure it's perfectly fine. Why wouldn't it be? The camera is baller, and this is Snapdragon 835. Of course, Snapchat's gonna work just like peachy. So, all right. That's basically it. I just wanted to give you a quick, 25 minutes, not that quick, but it's a review and I hope you appreciate it. It's literally an hour after the embargo lifts. So there you go. Stay tuned for more. I'll have more impressions once I use this more. Please stay tuned on my Twitter account, Facebook and G+ accounts, Twitter in particular, and also my Instagram. All of them is @TNKGRL. like Tankerl without the vowels. That's my Twitter, my Instagram, and you can find me like that on Facebook. And of course on Google Plus, I'm Myriam Joire. I'm also Myriam Joire on YouTube, where you've seen this video. So subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it with your friends, dislike it if you hate me, that's fine, I don't care. Please listen to the podcast. This is just to show you some of the things we talk about on the podcast. I want you, when you listen to the podcast, to have some visuals to go with it. That's why I have the YouTube channel. So podcast is my main gig. mobiletechpodcast.com. Subscribe. You can access the RSS there. We're on iTunes. We're on Pocket Cast as MTP Pocket Cast. That's the 3 letters. Look for that, and it'll give you the shortened URL, and you can subscribe. There you go. That's it. Thanks for tuning in today. Sorry for the technical issues, and stay tuned for more. Cheers.